Hello, everyone. Welcome, and thank you so much for coming to this fourth session of the KWL Hub platform training sessions for this summer. We're so excited to have you here, and we're excited to get started with you and all the great things we're going to be seeing today. So today's agenda is we're going to do a quick welcome and introduction, so you can meet our presenters, myself and Matthew. We're also going to go over the session norms, and then we're going to do a 35-minute overview of the KWL Hub training presentation. We'll go over your back to school needs as well as some great new features. Then we'll have a 15-minute session where we'll be able to go through any of your questions and answer them and go over things more in detail if need be. And then at the very end, we'll have 5 minutes to wrap up and go over all of the support resources that you have available to you way past today. So starting off first, getting to know your presenters. I will introduce myself. I am Christy O'Connor. I am the Customer Success Manager here at KWL Languages. I live in Connecticut, and I am a former Spanish teacher myself. I taught high school Spanish for 7 years. I have a bachelor's degree in Spanish with a master's in secondary education, and I am a lifelong crafter, love knitting, crocheting, quilting, and so much more, and I am very excited to be here with you today, and I will pass it off to Matthew.
Thank you, Christy. So hi, everybody. I'm Matthew Woods. I'm one of the EdTech operations specialists here at KWL. I'm based in Los Angeles, so I cover the Southwest region. A little bit about me. I have a background in education as well. I'm a former teacher. I taught for about 7 years in Title I elementary schools in South LA. I have an MED in educational pedagogy, and I'm a Google certified teacher and trainer. So to get started, let's talk about our session norms. So today's webinar is geared towards teachers with previous experience on the KWL Hub. Like Christy mentioned, we're going to dedicate about 35 minutes to a presentation on features of the KWL Hub, as well as some updates and new things that have been launched over the past 6 to 12 months. At the end, there will be a 15-minute Q&A session. So during the webinar, if you have any questions, please submit them in the Q&A box. The chat today is going to be disabled so as not to disrupt the session. So again, please use that Q&A box. Today's session is being recorded, so both the slide deck and the recording will be shared to all participants after the webinar. Now, if you are a first-time user, or if you feel like you would need additional support, feel free to check out our Getting Started guide for teachers. And you can also reach out to your dedicated sales consultant. And we're going to be sharing links to both of those resources in the chat for you to access. All right, so we're going to continue, and we're going to talk about how to set up for the back to school season so that you and your students are ready to go. Now, there are 3 main categories that you and your students will fall into. If your district or your school uses some kind of rostering or integration tool, such as Clever, ClassLink, Canvas, Schoology, Moodle, Brightspace, and your school or district is purchasing materials on behalf of your students, then you would fall into the blue group. Now, if your school does not purchase the materials for students, meaning that students have to purchase their own books and their own digital access, and your school does not use any kind of rostering or integration tool, then you would fall into the yellow group, teacher and student codes. And then last but not least, if your school or district is somewhere in between, if you're kind of a hybrid situation where you use Clever, ClassLink, Canvas, Schoology, or Moodle as your rostering tool, but students are still required to purchase their own materials, then you would fall into the green group. So we're going to talk about how you would access the hub in each situation and how to get ready for the back to school season. So let's start with our blue group. So again, these are for teachers who are using some kind of rostering or integration, whether it's Clever, ClassLink, Canvas, Moodle, Schoology, or Brightspace. There are a few things you will need to do to make sure you're set up and ready to go for the start of the school year. So first, you will need to confirm your classes and your roster. So to do this, you will navigate within the KWL Hub to the left-hand side of the screen. Underneath roster, you would click My Classes. And from here, it will show you the list of classes that have been pulled over from your school's information system. And you want to make sure that all of the classes displayed are correct, that no courses are missing. And it's also important that you verify the number of students that are rostered within each class. If you notice there are extra students, or if you are missing any students, just simply reach out to your school admin and they can fix the issue for you. Now, once you've confirmed that your classes and your rosters are correct, the next step would be to assign the book to each class. So to do that, you would navigate again to the left-hand side of the screen. Underneath content, you would click Assign Books. And from here, it will take you to the Assign Books window where you will see your complete library, and you will be able to select which books you would like to assign. You can assign more than one textbook to a class. You can also assign a textbook to specific groups of students or individual students. All right, so that was our blue group. Now let's talk about teachers and students with codes. So as a reminder, if you're in this group, it's because your school does not use a rostering or LMS tool. And this is also a situation where students are required to purchase their own materials. So there are a few different steps for you in this situation. The first thing you would need to do to be set up for the new school year is you would have to create your classes and generate a class code. So to do that, you would navigate underneath roster, you would click My Classes, and then you would look for the blue Add Class button, and you would be manually creating each class, and you will be choosing the name for each class. And we recommend to be as specific as possible. That way you can distinguish each course. Once you've created your classes, they will be displayed on a table. And this is where you would move on to the second step of creating the class, which is generating the class code. This is how students will join your class. So on the far right of the table in the My Classes window, you will click the blue Generate button to create your class code, which will be shared with your students. Now, the final step here is for students to activate their book access code and to join your class. So to do that, your students will log into the KWL Hub, navigate to the top right corner of the screen and click on their name. From here, they will navigate to My Account, and then they will type in the book access code that they purchased, which will give them access to the digital materials. And they also will type in the class code that you provided. That way they will have access to your course and all the assignments and classwork you create for them. Now, the third and final group, again, this is kind of a hybrid scenario where your school or your district does use some kind of integration or LMS, such as Schoology, Moodle, Canvas, or Brightspace. However, in this example, students are still required to purchase the materials. Now, because students are still using that rostering and integration tool, it's very important that they do not create their own account. They will be purchasing their own materials, but they still will be logging into the KWL Hub from your course page in your LMS. Again, whether that's Schoology, Brightspace, Moodle, or Canvas, or another one. Once students have created their account for the first time by logging in through their LMS, you want to confirm the roster. All of the students that have joined your class should be listed within the KWL Hub. And since students are purchasing their own materials, they will have to follow the steps we just mentioned. They will have to go into their account, navigate to My Account, and then type in their book access code so that they can access the materials. Now, that is a lot of information, so if you still need additional assistance with getting started, feel free to check out the teacher and student guides that we mentioned previously. You can also reach out to your dedicated sales consultant, as previously mentioned. You can also use the chatbot, which is our virtual assistant within the KWL Hub. You just look for this icon, the little blue circle with the little speech bubbles, and you can chat with the chatbot. It will give you resources and support guides to assist you. Now, if you need a little bit more of in-depth help with troubleshooting, feel free to fill out our customer support form that will get you in touch with our ed tech team, and we'll support you as soon as possible, okay? So now I'm going to pass it over to Christy, and we're going to get started with some new features and updates.
Yes, we're very excited. We have a bunch of new features and updates that have been developed over the last couple of months. Some you may know about, some you may not, and we're excited to go over them with you today. So if we want to go to the next slide, we have a variety of different types of new features. We have assignment creation, gradebook, and the new UX UI. So I'm going to go ahead and head over to the KWL Hub, and I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to show you guys exactly where all of those are. Hopefully you all can see my screen right now, and we will be able to see all of the things that are available to us step by step. So the first thing is looking at assignment creation. So you may know already when you want to go about creating an assignment in the KWL Hub, you can come over here to assignments and click on create assignment. And then you click this large plus button and you go through all of the steps you normally do in regards to creating an assignment for your students. But there is now a new way that you can go about doing this exact same thing that might be a little bit easier for you and your planning purposes. So now when we go into content, we're in my books and you have your course library of all the different books that you use for students. And I'm going to go ahead and jump into Reporteros 1, which is my personal favorite. Once you open up the book, maybe you're in here for your classes, you're flipping around, deciding which activities are the ones that you want to assign to your students for maybe homework tonight, which ones you want to do in class next week, etc. So let's say for this example, I'm in Unit 3 and I'm going to be over here on page 124 to 125. So as I'm scrolling through these activities, I realize, wow, these are perfect. I definitely want to assign these to my students. I think this would make a great homework assignment for tonight. Well, rather than having to write this down, make a note of it, go out to the regular part of the platform and make that assignment, I now have this button up here in the top right-hand corner that says create new assignment. So if I go ahead and click on that and click graded assignment, now we can see that same workflow that we were just about to do before in that create assignment with that large plus button is directly in the book. And what's even better is that because the system notices that you're already looking at specific pages and activities, it pre-selects those activities for you as things it thinks that you may be wanting to assign. So I've seen, ooh, this actually has a lot of teacher graded activities. I don't know if I really want to grade this weekend, so I think I'm going to unselect those and maybe I'll choose 2 or 3 more activities here that are auto graded so they're nice and easy for me. Don't forget, now that I have all the activities selected that I want to use, I need to give it an assignment name. I always really like to name the naming convention of big to small. So I'm going to do Spanish 1, Unit 3, Lesson 1, and page 124 to 127 is what we're looking at right now. So I have all of that ready to go. And before I go ahead and create my assignment, I'm going to double check that my settings are exactly how I want them. So to do that, you're going to come up to the right-hand corner and click on this settings gear. So just quickly, let's review what these settings are for. So first we have allow activity skip. So remember, this doesn't mean that your students can skip an activity and not do it. It means they can skip around. So as you see below, I've selected 3 different assignments. So if I do not turn this button on, my students will have to complete this activity first and do all of their attempts, then the next one, and then the next one. They have to go in order and they have to complete it before they move on to the next one. I like for my students to be able to open up, see the assignment, look at the different activities and decide, all right, I think I'm going to start with this one, then maybe go to this one because I feel stronger. So it's up to you whether or not you want to turn any of these settings on. Next, we have assignment summary. When you turn this on, your students get a nice kind of snapshot upon submitting their work to you of how they did. So it tells them how many they got right, how many they got wrong, if there's any that are pending to be graded by you, the teacher. So it's a nice kind of, as I said, snapshot of how they did after they've submitted their work to you. Multiple attempts are just that. If you turn it on, it gives you limitless attempts. If you do not have it on, it means that your students have 1 attempt only. So let's say, for example, they're doing a multiple choice. They select A, it was wrong. That's it. That is their answer, that's their response, and that goes to you in your gradebook. So if you want to allow for multiple attempts, you can simply turn it on and that's limitless attempts, or you can go ahead and you can decide the number of attempts that you want to give to them. So most of the time, I think that about 3 to 5 is usually perfect for most of our assignments, but again, make sure you're customizing it to your students' needs and also the activities you're choosing. You also have a new feature here, which you may not have seen before, which is called hide responses. So if I turn this on, it means that I can choose when my students are able to see the answers, what they got right and wrong, as well as the answer key itself. So this is great because we know that sometimes students love to screenshot and send the answers around. So if you want to maybe prohibit that, this is a great tool for you. So what you do is you turn it on and then you're going to select the date in which they can view those answers. So let's say, for example, I'm assigning this for tomorrow. Maybe I'm going to choose that the next day is when they're going to be able to go ahead and see the answers. At the bottom, we have custom message. If I turn this on, it allows me to choose a grading parameter. So let's say for this example, I'll do between 0 and 50%. And I can choose a custom message to appear to my students if they fall within that parameter. So I'm going to say for anyone who gets between a 0 and a 50, I'm going to say, come see me for help. And maybe I want to even do a nice one that if you get between a 90 and 100, I say, great job. Okay, and you can do as many as you like. Then lastly, at the very top, we have shuffle activity. If you turn this on, it's going to shuffle the order in which these activities appear within the assignment for each student. And lastly, we have time limit. So here you can choose if you would like to set a specific number of minutes that your students have to complete the activity once it has been opened. Okay, and again, this is different than the due date. This is exactly once it's opened, a timer starts. How long do you have to complete the assignment? So if, for example, I choose to do 10 minutes, my students will open the activity. They will see they have 10 minutes and a timer will start in the corner of the screen. It's important to keep in mind that your students can leave the assignment. It will pause the timer and they can come back and resume where they left off. So just keep that in mind as you're assigning things. Maybe it's a bit better for a classwork rather than a homework, but it's up to you and what works best for your classroom. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it off because I don't need it for this. And now I feel great about these settings. So I'm going to go ahead and click Create Assignment. I can also save it as a draft. If maybe I'm not ready to create it, I want to add a couple more activities from a different place. I want to root around a little bit more before I decide what's going on from this assignment. But I feel good about it, so I'm going to click Create Assignment. And now it's going to ask me, are you sure you're done with this assignment? It's ready to be created. I'm going to say yes. And then now it's asking me, do you actually want to go about sending it to your students, assigning it? So it's great to kind of think of this similarly to when you're shopping online. When you're shopping online, you put something in your cart and it says, do you want to check out or do you want to keep shopping? So if I want to keep shopping, I want to keep looking at things I'm not ready to check out, I'm going to click Go Back to Book. But if I'm ready to check out, I want this to go to my students, maybe not even right now, but I'm ready to assign it, I'm going to click Yes, Assign. So once I click Yes, Assign, it gives me the options of to whom I am assigning that assignment and when. So first I'm going to choose which classes I'm going to assign it to. So I'm going to choose a couple of classes here. And then remember, you can also assign to groups and to individual students, but I'm just going to choose my classes. Then you're going to choose when it's available. When can your students start and see that assignment appear to them? So remember, you can schedule it to appear down the road. Maybe you know this is going to be for when you're out on Friday for a field trip. You can schedule it so they won't even be able to see it or start it until that release date. But if you don't do anything, it will automatically pre-populate to exactly when we started the assignment. So that way, once you assign it, it's automatically available to your students. Then you have the ability to choose a due date. So I'm going to go ahead and choose tomorrow night at the end of the day. And then remember, you also have this option of available after due date. This is a very important button, and we really recommend it for most K-12 teachers that you always select this button. The reason being is that if you do not select this button, if the due date passes and your student has not completed the assignment, whether it's for a valid reason, like they were out sick, or maybe an invalid reason they just didn't do it, they are not going to be able to do that assignment. It is locked and they cannot open it or complete it. So if you want your students to be able to do late work, even a penalized late work, you should always select this button. or personally, if you don't want any headaches, because in my opinion, it definitely could cause some headaches for you if you don't select it. So then once we select that button, you'll see a new thing appears, which is another great new feature, which is the fact that we have the ability to automatically apply a late penalty for any students who hand in this assignment late. So we already know in our gradebook, we can see which assignments are turned in late or not, but we have to manually enter that penalty when we find that information out. Well, now it will do it for you. So what you can do is you can choose how much of a penalty I want to do. So maybe I want to do a 50% penalty if it's late. So I'm going to do 2.5 points, which you can see it calculates to 50%. And I'm going to say everyone who submits after, let's say, I'm going to be nice and give them till Monday. Anytime after Monday, they're going to get a 50% penalty if they hand it in after that day. And it will automatically be applied to the gradebook. I don't have to go in manually and do that. And I'm going to go ahead and click assign. And now it has been successfully sent to my users, or my students. So that's really wonderful. And maybe I decide as I'm going through, I want to say, wait, where did that assignment go? Well, remember, you can always leave the book, come back to your assignments. And as we can see, here's that assignment we just created. It's our most recent one. So that's really wonderful. And you can always come back here as well and create your assignments the way you have before. And what's really, really great is another new feature is that you now have the availability to, if I go to create a new assignment and I click on settings, you can see all of those settings that we just did together are saved. So if I'm being really proactive, I'm in my prep period and I'm planning for the next week, maybe I'm wonderful, I'm planning for the next semester, I can go ahead and create a bunch of assignments that will all have the same settings preset for me. It is important to note that these settings will only save while you are logged into this current session. So if I were to log out and come back later, these will no longer be saved. It starts it over every time you log out. So just keep that in mind that if you want to get ahead with your planning, you want to have the same settings, make sure that you're staying in the same session, getting them created. Otherwise, when you come back, you'll be able to choose new settings for different assignments because of course, an open-ended assignment might need different settings than a multiple choice assignment. So it's always a good idea to double check those settings and make sure that they are what you like. Okay. We also have, when we are looking at our assignments here in our assignment library, we also have a new ability when we're talking about this hamburger menu, which is where you typically used to assign it through the check button. We have other tools that we already know about, such as starring it for finding it later. You can edit, clone, deep link, and now we have two new buttons. So the first button here is this chain link button, which if I copy it, it's going to say at the top, direct link copied successfully. So what does a direct link do? So essentially what this is it is a link for you to send to your students or post on your, Google Classroom or wherever that will direct them directly to that activity. Okay, so for example, myself, I used to teach with Google Classroom. I would maybe make an assignment that says due tomorrow. I'd put a link and say, here is the assignment you're doing on the KWL Hub. My students click on it. It will prompt them to log in if they're not already logged in, and then it will take them directly to the assignment that you created. So it's a nice, easy shortcut for your students to get to where they need to be. No ifs, ands, or buts, okay? And we do also have this new folder icon. So you may have noticed if you were very observant, above our assignments, we have this new section called folders. And you can see I've already created some for myself. So you can see I created a Spanish 1 folder. I created them for different units and even different lessons. And I have different activities in here. So when I'm in these folders and subfolders, I can click add assignment and I can choose any assignment from my assignment library to be added to this folder. And it will appear here now. Or while I'm back in my assignment library, as we saw, if I click on that hamburger menu, I can select that folder icon and I will choose where I want to move that assignment to. So I can go ahead through that same kind of flow that I just did before, click move, and now it's going to be removed from my general library and it's going to be organized into my nice little folders. And we have coming very soon the ability that you will be able to copy an entire folder and it will copy all of the assignments in there for you. So that's coming up very soon and we're very excited about that, and hopefully that will also improve what you have going on. So just to review, so far what we have gone over as our new features is we have gone over creating assignments directly within our course player or the virtual book. We've also gone over assignment settings that save while you're in the same session. We've also reviewed how to do the option in your settings for applying a late work penalty automatically. We also went over the deep direct linking of assignments, posting them other places, or even just emailing them to your students. And lastly, we just went over how to add assignments to a folder in the KWL Hub. And again, if you didn't catch it at the beginning, because I didn't go over specifically how to go about creating your folders, you do have this folder section. If you want to create a new one, all you have to do is click create new folder and choose your name. So it's very nice and easy, and you can always rename it later on if you want, or delete it. So those are all the assignment creation updates that we have had so far. Remember, if you have any questions about what I've done so far, throw them in that Q&A section for Matthew or myself to answer now or in a little bit. Moving on to our second part, we're going to look at our gradebook updates. So I'm going to navigate over here. I'm still in assignments and I'm going to jump into gradebook. So I'm going to go into my classes, and when I go into an actual class itself, you may notice that there's two new buttons up here in the top right-hand corner. We have bulk grade and our little pencil. So let's go to the pencil first. So this pencil, once I click it, will now make any of the assignments that have been turned in editable for me with very quick, easy grading. So if I, for example, have a school that says, actually no students can get below a 50%. Well, that would be a lot of manual work for me to go in and change every single one of these grades at the end of the semester to a 50 or more. So rather than having to go and do that individually, what I can do is I can easily just go through and I can, well, not me having to do math. I don't even know what half of 27 is. 13.5. I hope. I was not a math teacher for a very good reason. And so I can go through and easily go in and check them. And just in case you're not good at math like me, you can click save and you can see I did correctly calculate. It is 50%. This one, not so much. I clearly need to go back to school, but that's all right. I'm not a teacher of math for a very good reason and I won't try. But either way, you do have this nice, easy way to go ahead and edit multiple grades with just a couple of clicks and types. And as you may have noticed, I had to click that little save floppy disk for those grade changes to go into effect. You also have next to it this bulk grade option, and you might be able to see if I hover over it, it says please select one assignment and one class to start bulk grading. So as you can see, I can't actually click on it right now, and that's because you can only do this with one assignment at a time. So let's say, for example, this assignment here, the demo assignment, is actually a participation grade, and I want to give everyone an 100. It's not, I don't really care if it affects their grade. So I'm just going to choose this one assignment. And then I'm going to be able to click bulk grade. So you can see now the button's blue instead of grayed out. And when I go ahead and choose that, I have the ability to go in and now mass update everyone's grades at the same time. So rather than thinking of it as bulk grading, it's a good idea to think of it as quick grading. So you can really go in and quickly grade the same assignment for multiple students all at the same time. So I want to give everyone an 100. So I'm going to select everyone. Their max score is a 27, so I'm going to give them a 27. You can see everyone's score changes, and I'm going to click save. And now everyone got an 100%. Lucky them. So that is a very nice, easy way for you to grade everyone at the same time if they're all getting the same score in a nice, easy way. And it doesn't have to be everyone. As you can see, I could select individual students, or I can select everyone who did that assignment. The only caveat is students will only appear in that list if they have completed the assignment. You can't update work that has not been completed, okay? And then I want to go and see what's going on with my student Frida Kahlo here. So I'm going to click on her, and if I open up her grades, I'm actually going to switch back to last semester because she hasn't done much for this semester. Oops. I need to do all of my assignments. There we go. So now I can see all of Frida's work, and I can see that Frida has not been doing so well in my class recently. I can see, for example, She got a 15 on this assignment, and that's really unusual for her. And she comes to me and says, Senora, unfortunately, I totally forgot to do the last two activities. My mom called me for dinner. Can I please redo it? Of course. So I want to give Frida a new chance. So what I'm going to do is use this new reassign button over here on the right hand side. And I have this for all the assignments. And what I can do is I can click the button and I can select a new due date for Frida. So it was originally due 2 days ago, but I'm going to say, all right, I'm going to give you 2 more days to complete this. So it's due by Friday night. And if you get it in, I'll give you full credit. She says, wonderful. That's so great. Thank you so much, Senora. You're the best teacher ever. And so I'm going to click OK. And now you're going to see the gradebook is going to refresh. And now that assignment is no longer in her work. And the reason being is because it overrode her current work and it completely reset and reassigned it to her. So when she goes in to log into her platform, she's going to open up her assignments and she'll see it as if it's a new assignment that's due in 2 days. And when she goes to open it, her old work will not be there. It will be a complete clean slate for her to redo it. So please keep that in mind for the reassign feature. If you reassign it, it erases their old work and they get a completely new start on that same activity. Okay? So now we've gone over our reassigned student work feature, our inline grade editing, and bulk grading / quick grading. Again, if you have questions, make sure to throw them in the Q&A section for Matthew and myself to answer now or later on. So the last thing we're going to go over is we're going to look at the new UX UI, which if you don't know, UX UI means user experience or user interface. So what we're going to do is we're going to see how we have updated the student version of the KWL Hub. And if you're bummed out that you don't have a new version, don't worry, teacher version is coming at the end of this year, so make sure you stay tuned for that. So the way I'm going to show it to you is actually through a very important feature that you should hopefully be using already, which is impersonation. So when you go into your roster and my students, you'll be able to see all of your students here. And next to each student is this button of impersonate. So I'm going to go ahead and impersonate Frida. And now this logs me into Frida's account. So please keep in mind, it actually is Frida's account. So if you go poking around in here, making any changes, maybe even trying out the homework you just assigned, remember, this is Frida's real account. And so if you go in and do her homework, you literally did her homework for her and gave her a nice grade boost. So make sure you use that reassign setting so she can actually go in and do it. Same thing goes if you're projecting any information in class, showing your students how to navigate. Live student data will be in here, so you don't want to, for example, go into their grade book and show everyone in the class Frida's grades, okay? But this is a wonderful resource that you can use to go in and troubleshoot with your students. If they're having any issues, this is a great way to check their account without them lugging their Chromebook up to your desk. So when we go into the KWL Hub, you will see it automatically says at the top, you are now using the new interface. You can switch back to the previous version from your profile settings. So we have set it so that all students will automatically get the new update once they log into their account this school year. And we know students are very malleable. They're great at learning new technology, so they will catch on right away. And it's not terribly different from the old version, which I'll show you in just a moment. If they do want to go back to the old version for some reason, they can do that, as you can see from the profile settings. All you need to do is click on the little person icon in the corner, and you can see it says change to old version. So I'm going to click on that just so you can see what the old version looks like quickly, and then also see how great the new one is for our students. So this is the old view. It's kind of very similar to what we saw for the teacher version, okay? But we wanted to make it a little bit cleaner, a little bit better, and a little bit easier for your students. So I'm going to go back and change the new version. And your students do have documentation links to help them if they're confused at all and they want to change. So now I can see when I go into my account, I'm brought first to my course library. I can search for content if I want to. I can also look at my books. Most of your students will only have one, but it's possible they may have more than one. So I have just two, but likely just one for your kids. We can click on view details and see things like the course, as well as the expiration date, the ISBN, all that wonderful things. And you can also open the book by clicking on open book, or you can click on the cover. When I open up the course player or that virtual book, you can see we've also made a couple of updates here. The first is that we have changed the navigation on this left-hand side to have, rather than small carrots, we have these now plus and minus buttons to be able to open and collapse the different portions of the book navigation. You can also see I'm going to collapse that toolbar here on the left-hand side and focus a bit more about how we have changed our navigation here. So previously our navigation toolbar lived on the left-hand side and it gave us less room to explore the actual beautiful pages of the book, which we want to have full eyes on that. So we've put most of the navigation at the top and at the bottom of our website now. So at the top we have contents. Again, this is how you can jump to different sections of the book or even different subsections if you would like. You have resources, which is where students can easily find all of the hotspots that are embedded throughout the entirety of the book, and they can jump to them easily, but again, they're also available here in the actual book itself. You have bookmarks. If you didn't notice before, you had bookmark options previously, but it was a little harder to find. So now we have these big bookmark buttons so that you can easily see that you can bookmark and save this page for later. And it will come up here in this bookmark section. And your students can even organize their bookmarks however they want to view them if they have a lot. Same thing goes for notes. They can make virtual sticky notes for themselves and save them here. The virtual sticky note edition is actually in the bottom left hand corner where this little sticky note plus a plus button is. If I click on that, it'll tell me to click somewhere on the page. I type in my note, I click save, and now it's going to be here for later on. And remember, these annotations are personal to you and the user. If you write a sticky note on your book, it does not disperse to all of your students. No different than if you put a real sticky note on your book, a sticky note doesn't appear in everyone else's book. These are personal annotations for each teacher and student. We also have highlights. If you highlight a text using your cursor, you can go ahead and again use this little button in the bottom left hand corner. This highlight button appears. You can choose the color, and then not only will it draw your attention, but it saves here for later reference. You can search anywhere in the book. You can also, you can also share the link to this page. So if, for example, you're very digitally based for your lesson plans, or maybe you want to send your students to a certain page quite quickly, you can share this link, copy it, and once your students click on this, as long as they're logged in, it will bring them directly to this page in the book. And lastly, you have the help button, which goes over all of these tools again very easily. Finally, at the bottom, we already went over, we have the sticky note. You also have your general annotation tool. Before we saw how to highlight, but that was specifically text. If you want some more free form annotation, you can go ahead and do that with our annotation tool. In the middle, we have additional navigation resources. You can jump to a specific page number, or you can also open up this little window icon, which is going to allow you to scroll through a variety of different thumbnails of upcoming pages and navigate to the page that you would like. Last but not least, on the bottom right, we have the ability to choose between a one-page and two-page view. You can zoom in and out, and you can also make everything full screen. Again, making it as easy as possible for you and your students to see the content that you would like. All right, so that's just another great way we updated things for our students on the new UX UI. And then lastly, you can see just the general navigation is a little bit more condensed. They had our library at the top, which we've been in already. We have assignments where your students can search for assignments, which is really great. If they know it's for Unit 2, they can say Unit 2, and now I can see all of the assignments that have Unit 2 in the name. They are also able to easily organize by when it was due, when it was assigned, alphabetically by the title name. They can also see which assignments they have upcoming, meaning that it's still available to them, whether that's on time or late. As you can see, the student has a lot of late work that they should probably catch up on. You also have the missing folder, which is if you do not select that available after due date button, this is the purgatory that assignment goes to. Your students cannot open it at all. And you can see if I go to open it, it says the due date has passed and you cannot submit the assignment. And then we have submitted, meaning that it has been turned into the teacher, but it requires teacher grading and my teacher hasn't gotten to it yet. And then, of course, lastly, graded is self-explanatory, all of the previous assignments they have done and being able to view them. They can also always view their previously graded work with their actual gradebook, where they can see a clear list of all the activities that they have done, what their score is, and they're even color coordinated for students to easily keep track of what has been going on with their classes. So that is the new UX UI. We're very excited about it. And again, remember, we have a new one coming for teachers too. And we're really looking forward to having that available to you guys. So keep an eye out for that. And Maggie, I think we're ready to go to the next slides as soon as you are. So I'll stop sharing.
All righty, so I'm gonna go ahead and continue. So we do have some new releases coming soon, such as a skills portfolio. This will be very useful for you as a teacher, but also for your students to keep track of their progress. As Christy mentioned earlier, folder management is something that also is coming soon. The ability to copy a folder and also copy all of the assignments within it is a work in progress. We hope to release that soon. Gradebook categories is something that's also on the horizon, which will allow you to weight specific categories such as tests or final exams, things like that, homework. You can determine how much you want each category to be weighted. And as Christy mentioned, the new user interface, the new user experience for teachers is coming soon. We expect that sometime in January of next year. Now, we do recommend that teachers bookmark the KWL Hub blog because we release updates as well as articles on new features that are being released for the platform. And we'll share a link to that in the chat. And now that's going to bring us to our Q&A session. So if you haven't already, please go ahead and share any questions you have in the Q&A box. In a minute or so, we'll go ahead and discuss some of them. Now, there was a question that came in earlier in the webinar that I wanted to come back to. There was a question about a pacing guide. So for each unit, the teacher was asking how long does each unit typically take to teach? Christy, do you want to answer that one?
Yeah, that's a great question. It really depends upon the series. So I definitely would recommend what you should do is look at your teacher resources to see if there's a pacing guide available already to you. For example, if you're teaching with any of the reporter series like Reporteros, Reporter Francophone, Das Reporter Team, and soon Giovani Reporter for Italian, those all have a pacing guide incorporated in the teacher resources that tell you approximately how many 50 or 90-minute class sessions it takes you to get through one unit. So that way you have a general ballpark approximately how it will be able to be parceled out for the entire year. For example, the reporter series have 6 units per level. So you would be able to use that to kind of guide your pacing throughout the year. I also would really recommend if that your textbook that you're using does not have a specific pacing guide, you refer to the lesson plans, either the actual written lesson plans, again, usually incorporated in the teacher resources, or also the teacher's edition. Those will give you suggestions of approximately how long your lesson plan should be and how much each individual session should be with your students, which will again allow you to help parcel out your year and make sure that your pacing is correct. So definitely make sure you're looking at your teacher resources on the platform, as well as your teacher's edition to make sure that you have a good understanding about the pacing of the material that you're discussing.
All right, thank you, Christy. So we had a question about the weighting, like having weighted grading categories. As you mentioned, that is coming soon. That is not yet available. Now, Christy, I was looking at the roadmap. Do you know when it is estimated that the weighting for gradebook categories is going to be released?
Yes, we were hoping to have it in the next couple of weeks. However, I know that there's been a little bit of a delay with our developers with some of the concerns. We want to make sure it's absolutely perfect for our teachers. So it is not available just yet, but hopefully it will be available this next couple of months.
Right. Here's another question. Can teachers make comments on ungraded assignments? Are they able to leave feedback for students if an assignment is ungraded?
Um, it depends on what you mean by that. So if you mean ungraded, meaning that you didn't grade it yourself, but the system graded it, yes, you absolutely can go about leaving your own feedback on the assignments. If it's an assignment that has not been completed yet and was not submitted to you, you're not able to go into the system and leave a comment for your student, for example, telling them to go do it. If it's been submitted and it's not graded yet by you, you can still go in there and go in and leave feedback. And I can actually, if you'd like, I can share my screen. I can show you exactly what that looks like if you want to go in and leave a specific comment. So
Sure,
when
I'll
you
go
are,
ahead. Go ahead, go ahead.
sorry, so when you're looking at your grade book, and let's say, for example, we're going to go back to my student Frida Kahlo, and I want to see her work. If I, for example, wanted to leave a note on this assignment, maybe this was completely auto graded. I didn't personally grade this. It was all multiple choice and the system graded itself. What I can do is next to her name, you see this is blue, which means that I can click on it.
Chrissy, can you share your screen one more time?
Oh yeah, sure. I'll go back one step so we can just make sure that we all caught that. Are you able to see my screen now? Okay.
Yes.
Perfect, thank you. All right, so I'm in with you an actual student's account. So this is Frida Kahlo within one of my classes. So I want to see or leave feedback for this specific assignment. So I'm going to click on the blue link. And now not only can I see her name, how long she spent on it, her score, her updated score, which means that I've done some sort of adjustment to what the original score was that she got. I can also go in and see and change individual grades. So if I don't want to say change the whole global grade for the whole assignment, I just want to change this one. She says, I forgot accents. I want to go in and fix that. I can go ahead and I can fix it manually. And you can also enter feedback for each individual assignment activity, as well as you can leave a global assignment at the bottom. If you want that feedback to go to your students, what you're going to click is one of these submit buttons. If you just click submit, it saves what you changed and it sends it back to your students. They get a notification on the platform letting them know that their work has been evaluated or you have provided feedback, depending on which it is. And not only that, if you don't want to just submit and send it back to them, but maybe you want to do this for all of your students in the class, you can click submit and next. So this will bring me to the next grade of Frida Kahlo, and I can go through all of her grades that were recent and go through and leave feedback and grade all of them. Or if I'm in my assignments to grade queue, now I don't have any assignments here that are needing my assignment work, like, an open-ended text or maybe a recording. But if I had, for example, a lot of the same activity, I assigned a speaking activity to all of my students. I have 50 now that I need to grade. Those will appear here, and I can do that same process where I provide feedback, score it, and I click submit in next. And if I'm here, it will bring me to the next student in my queue that has completed work that needs my attention. Okay, so I hope that answered your question about providing comments and feedback for work. And if it's not, please let us know. Are there other ones that we wanted to go over?
All right, thank you, Kristen. Let me see. Okay, so the teacher did clarify. So they meant by ungraded assignment, they meant when you create a new assignment / ungraded assignment. So assignments without scores, if they could still leave feedback in that case. I know you addressed it.
Gotcha. Yeah. So we're actually updating that assignment workflow pretty soon. And so we're actually going to remove that ungraded button altogether. And so you will have only the option, you will be able to still kind of do that same workflow of that ungraded work. But currently that ungraded work goes into the classwork feature and it's not really functional in this moment. And you actually can't even go in and leave comments or view student work as it is. So that's why we're actually removing it and we're updating it to be part of the graded. But then with that graded weighting, you will be able to choose whether or not it gets a score that goes into your grade book. And then, of course, just as we did before, you would still be able to go in and provide comments or leave notes for your students and feedback. So we're expecting that adjustment, I believe, in the next couple of weeks to be able to be updated. So for the time being, no, you will not be able to, but in the future, yes, you will.
All right, thank you, Christy. Let me go ahead and pull up the slides again.
Of course.
All right, so we still have about 10 minutes left. So if anyone still has questions, feel free to submit them in the Q&A box, but we'll go ahead and continue, and we will share some support resources that you can use here in the beginning of the school year. So if you would like support, if you would like kind of an overview of features, so maybe some basic support questions, there are several resources you can use. The first one is the KWL Hub support page, which is our library of how-to articles that have step-by-step guides and everything from how to create an assignment, how to grade an assignment, how to impersonate your students, how to leave notifications for your students. And they're all very step-by-step. They have pictures, some of them have videos to walk you through. We also have our Getting Started teacher guides that were shared in the chat, as well as video tutorials. We have a library either on YouTube or also on the implementation side of our website that have very clear step-by-step guides for teachers. And as we mentioned earlier, you can also refer to the KWL Hub blog for updates on new features and accessories on the Hub. Now, if you have in-depth questions or if you're trying to troubleshoot an issue that you and your school admin cannot solve, feel free to fill out the customer support form. This will get you in touch with our EdTech team, so either me or one of my colleagues will be able to assist you. Now, we do want to clarify and specify that if you are a K-12 teacher, please make sure you are filling out the customer support form on your students' behalf. That's just for privacy reasons. But if you are a college, if you're a college teacher, a higher ed teacher, or you're a higher ed student, they are allowed to fill out the form on their own. Now, we also have more tailored support for you when you are teaching. The first option, as you mentioned earlier, is the chatbot. If you have specific questions, feel free to type it in there and we'll offer resources and support. And we also are offering implementation office hours. So this is one-on-one support with our implementation team. I believe they're about 15 to 30-minute sessions. So if you have very specific pedagogical questions in regards to teaching, this is where you can get those questions answered quickly. And here are some final reminders. You can impersonate your students and see into their accounts directly. We kind of mentioned that earlier. This is great for troubleshooting. This is also great if you would like to see what the student interface looks like, if you're trying to help your students navigate to a particular area in a textbook, things like that. Especially if your students are using the new UX UI, this is a great way to see what their screens look like. Another resource, as you mentioned several times, is the chatbot. Ask all your questions there. We want to remind you that you will receive the recording and the slides from today's session. And as always, our KWL team is here to support you and your students. Now, as we close out our session, we have about 5 to 6 minutes left. We would love to hear from you. We'd love to get feedback from you on today's session. So we will be sharing the link to our feedback survey in the chat. And we also have a QR code here on the screen if you would like to submit this survey that way. All right, so once again, thank you for taking the time to join us, especially at the beginning of the school year. We know everyone's schedules are very busy, and we look forward to supporting you this new year.
Thank you all so much. Have a great rest of your night.